Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. In today's video I'm going to be doing a podcast. It's the first one in about 6 weeks. I'm really sorry about that. My life has been absolutely crazy. It's been manic. So the title of today's podcast is, are we entering a bubble or is it the new normal? And I just really wanted to put out some ideas more than anything. Before I do get into it, if you do want to support my content, do that by now. You can do that by liking, commenting and subscribing. It does help me. I'm trying to not create a movement, but I'm trying to really try and educate people about precious metals ownership. And I want it to be beneficial. It's all well and good me making money. I enjoy money like everyone else in terms of it gives me freedoms. But I want people to kind of walk away from my channel thinking, you know what, I've learned something practical or something useful today. That's more what I'm about. So, are we in bubble territory? I've been speaking to a lot of people that I know who are in gold and silver, and they're also in other assets. Not all of the assets are conventional. So I know people who own Pokemon cards. I know people who own property. I know people who own ETFs and shares. I even know some people who own vintage cars, believe it or not. And all of these things seem to be going up. And it got me thinking. I had a conversation with a gentleman I deal with abroad. I see him kind of as a mentor. We don't speak as much as we used to. I think we've both been run ragged by work, but I said to him, this was when I was working the night shift because I thought my business was going to fail. Thankfully, I've managed to resolve that and I've come out fighting. But I said to him, I was adamant the stock market was going to crash. And then I had a revelation or a realization that I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not going to crash. Maybe due to the sheer amount of money that's in the market, due to modern monetary theory, via the mechanism of quantitative easing, maybe this is a new normal. And if it is a new normal, how are these individual asset prices going to, how are they going to work? Now, if you believe it's the new normal and you think QE is going to lead to a K-shaped recovery, which I firmly believe, it's going to extrapolate it's going to polarize, the rich and the poor. And I'm thinking, is that going to happen with assets? Are your poorer class assets going to act as anchors? And are your better class assets going to not go to the moon, but continue to appreciate? Now, I have been building other theories. I don't know if my theories are right. I am essentially, as much as I am a coin dealer, I'm also a speculator of assets. But I've been theorizing that if it is a K-shaped recovery and it is the new normal, it's not gonna crash anytime soon. So you want to put your money where the money is to be made. Is it going to be made in bullion? Potentially not. I personally think it's going to be the semi-numismatic part of the market. I think it's going to be your numismatic part of the market. But what I do believe is that the further up the scale you go, the more volatile it's going to be. I think it's going to be like an elastic band in terms of pricing. I think there's going to be a lot of prices that are thrown out that are very inconsistent, and it's going to be hard to find value. I think it's going to create a lot of opportunities in the upper part of the market and the middle part of the market. And I think it's something that can be exploited. But that's my theory. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be an implosion of currency anytime soon. Now, theoretically, you could argue that if everyone is given money and they pay down their debt, it's a non-sum. It just cancels itself out. But we know this isn't the case because the money's been finding itself into these investments. People are saying, well, I'll put it on the stock market. I think Tesla went up 900%. Madness. That is absolute sheer ludicrousy. You look at certain stocks, again, they're being completely run up to the moon on no basis. And you look at other stocks and they've been taken to the cleaners, again, for no basis. Is that what I mean in terms of it being an anchor and there being more volatility in the top end of the market? Potentially, that's where I deduced my claim from. It's a difficult one. If you believe that governments can rein in their spending, then it is a bubble and it's going to pop somewhere. But how do you pop a bubble that's everywhere? It's everywhere. Or everywhere I can see anyway. And I'm interested to see if there's any assets out there that I haven't really looked at that have just not done anything. I was listening to a podcast about base metals. Some of the base metals are going crazy apparently. I haven't looked into it myself personally. I was listening to Real Vision, and I'm thinking that doesn't make sense. If we're in a recession or a depression, base metals don't tend to go crazy. The price isn't meant to do that. Is conventional thinking, has that gone out the window? And I think there's a real possibility that in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they're going to write textbooks about modern monetary theory and how it absolutely ruined the world. I genuinely think that. I'm pro gold and silver because I believe they messed around with the money supply. I picked it up in around 2018, 2019. Sorry, 2011, 2012. I wasn't an investor at that moment in time. I was still studying. But it didn't really make sense to me. They were messing around with the money supply. And I said back then to myself, I was thinking, this is we're on the path to nowhere here, because if they keep increasing the money supply at low interest rates, what happens when you have to increase the interest rates? Governments can't afford it. You can't tax your people non-stop. It doesn't work. The best talent leaves. You put the tax rate up, people move, because the brain drain, the gifted and talented won't pay it, and it's not right for the poor to kind of expect it from those who've made money either. Oh, that's my belief anyway. Old money is a different matter, but that's not the scope of this discussion. So you have to ask yourself, if they keep printing money and they're already running at a deficit and they're already struggling to pay back what they owe, every percentage point it goes up will cripple the government even more. So is it a bubble? Yes, if the government can do that. I use the term running up the hill in the sense that you borrow money and then you make yourself more productive and then you pay that money off. It's painful, it hurts, you get out of breath and your legs hurt, but by the top of the hill you're actually in a lot better shape for it. I don't think this is the case. I think a lot of the money that's been printed has been wasted, as per usual, as it is government. Governments are notoriously bad for efficiently allocating capital. We know this ever. They've never been good at allocating capital. So if the money's not being used productively and it has to be paid back, and they force themselves into a corner because they can't afford to pay extra in terms of interest, they're going to have to print more money, which would suggest that it's not a bubble. My line of thinking is it's not a bubble. A bubble is something that pops, and maybe it will pop in years to come. I don't think it will be anytime soon though. So you have to look at what the potential outcomes are of this scenario. Is there going to be a debt forgiveness? I don't know, potentially. But then who's buying the debt? It's mainly the governments themselves. Difficult one, that. Are governments going to be able to trim their budgets? I don't think so. I cannot think of any situation apart from the Industrial Revolution where this has been done. Maybe we need to have a war to kickstart the economy. We don't want that. We're too far advanced in terms of our nuclear capabilities. That's an even scarier thought than the economy going to shit, let's be honest. So it is a bubble, but I don't think it is a bubble. I think it's something that they're going to allow to keep going, because if they pop the bubble, it's going to cause a lot of issues. a hell of a lot of issues, and they're so far down the road in terms of this QE madness that I don't think they have a choice but to keep printing more and more money. What that means for investments, it will go up and up and up, and then it won't. It should fall off a cliff if it ever comes to that. Where do you put your money? I know where I'm putting mine, that's for sure, and it's not in the paper currency below the gold panda. Now, they are silver certificates. I did buy them in for a separate reason, but I'm not putting them in currency. I think currency is probably getting devalued at a faster rate than ever in history. But yeah, so are we in a forever bubble, or is it going to pop? You tell me.